This is Randall Bartlett again, and I'm going to do a demonstration today based on just scenes I've seen many times, some sand dunes, sea oats, a little bit of an ocean with a little bit of breakers, and kind of a blue sky with some clouds, maybe a little bit of a horizon going on there with a sunrise or sunset. But typically this would be a sunset, maybe a few footprints in the past. So there's a previous painting, set that aside. And here's another one that's similar, kind of curled up here, you can see. Maybe a little bit of darker blue. The sea oats may be a little bit looser. So this is all very, very fast and loose. So let's get started. A Ron Hansen hake brush. This is about 1 inch wide, and I've got my waters a little bit dirty, but that's okay. I mean, it's still fairly clear. So I'm wetting pretty much the entire part of the paper. Now I could tape off for horizons as I mentioned, but I'm not. Now I'm going to use a little bit of this is ultramarine blue. Couldn't think of the name for a second. A little bit of cerulean mixed together. Whatever favor you can do for your own sky. So I'm going to just start putting some of this in here. As you can see, I'm working wet into wet. I mean, the paper's wet, the paint, and then mixing again a little bit of color in there. Let me a little bit lighter blue. And I don't know how far down I'm going to come. Maybe something about like that. So my horizon will be somewhere in here. Now, there's some of that cerulean coming out a little bit bluer. Now, we know, as you probably, if you've painted before, or if you look out of the sky, it actually gets lighter as it gets to the horizon. Now, I'm a little bit blue there, so I'm leaving a little bit of white patch here. So I'm going to take just some clean water with my brush and just kind of pick up some of that a little bit there. Now, I'm dabbing it off on a tea towel that I have down here. Kind of see I'm not sure if it's an actual tea towel, but it's a towel, pretty dirty there, but I use it mainly to catch up water and pick up. So you can see what's happening here. I'm picking that up a little bit and leaving some of that. Now I kind of want to go a little bit darker, so I'm going to take a little bit of Payne's gray and put on my brush with a little bit of that ultramarine, and it's going to get a little bit darker coming in here. Not a whole lot. There you go. You can see it just starting to get a little bit darker, maybe a little bit there. Now, it's pretty white right there in the center. So I'm just going to dab a little bit there. Ooh, that's running like crazy. That's okay. I'm taking a tissue and I'm kind of picking up some of that, and I'm going to pick up some with my brush. Now, I'm going to lift up some clouds with my hake brush, and again, the clouds at the horizon are going to be a little bit smaller, just a little bit smaller than they would be up top. Now this is going to blend in a little bit more. I'm going to pick this up at the horizon. I'm okay because I know this is going to be water here, down in here, so I'm okay if that blue gets in there a little bit. So I'm just kind of dabbing some clouds. Again, I want them a little bit tinier or smaller at the horizon to try to get some atmospheric depth, and it's not that important. Another technique a lot of people use, and you may have done this before, is taking a tissue. You know, I have a box of tissues here, and you can take and make a little ball and kind of dab in some of that and pick up. Be a little careful though. Now you can only do this when the paint is a little bit wet. If it gets too dry, then it won't work. So I'm picking up, and I roll it sometimes to get some of those clouds, and then let it just kind of fade out a little bit. So it's a quick way, a fun way to do clouds. Not terribly, you know, you can tend to overwork it and overdo it. So let's just let that be our clouds today. And you know what I can do is hit that with a dryer a little bit, with a hair dryer, to kind of speed things up. So I'm going to have to do, first I'm going to think, okay, where do I want the sand dunes? And so I may take a brush here, the same brush I'm using here, and I'm going to mix a little bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit of raw sienna, and maybe just a little bit of Payne's gray, maybe trying to get a grayish. That's maybe a little bit. That's probably too red. Let's put a little bit of blue in that. Trying to get a grayish color here, and then like the path, the one I showed you, I think the path was running this way. So let's run the path this way. And that's just the access to it. So I'm creating maybe where that path would be down through here. I'm going to try to leave that as the white of the paper. So again, I don't know, the paper's still kind of wet down here. So I don't really know where that dune would be here. Maybe this one goes a little bit higher up this way. Maybe something like that. And then so the dune is going to appear on the left and the right. And it's going to be a little bit of a pathway going up through here. And I might just touch a little bit down in here so I kind of know where my water is going to be. And I just dab my brush on my tea towel to kind of lighten it up. And we're going to let that sit. Now, by no means have we finished the dune at all. And you're probably thinking, boy, I thought sand was white. And well, it is. It's kind of, but remember, we got some shadows going on. And I'm picking up a little bit off of here to kind of blend that a little bit and soften and get some of that white of the paper back in there. Same thing here. Did leave some white there, as you can see, and kind of just smoothing this out. And there's that path. So trying to create the top of the horizon line for the water, but I can kind of see, now you can measure up if you want to and mark it, but I'm going to go about right here is where I want my water line to be. Now I'm using the tip of that brush and I'm just kind of picking up here. A good rule of thumb is to always start a little bit lower than where you want it to be. I just rotated my board and I'm on about a 30-degree angle here with my board, and as you can see, I've got my paper tacked down. I use an Arches paper and a 140-pound cold press. I'll darken that up a little bit. That's going to bleed down because you can see it's really, really wet here. Probably too wet. So I'm drying my brush off on my tea towel, and again, I'm trying to create that edge, that chiseled edge there. And you can see what's happening now is I'm picking up some of that, but that's okay because I can come back and darken it. Now, where would the waves be? There's always a couple of different breaks. So I'm going to try to leave some of the white of the paper. It's not that critical that you do that. You can always come back with some white gouache and do that. And then get back to some of that same kind of color there. And then where do I think I want this next wave? Now I'm going to go, you can see I'm a little bit darker here. So I'm putting the bottom of that wave and I'm kind of tapping the brush there. So this is where there's going to be another wave break here. And so I'm drawing the bottom part of the wave. And now that's kind of where, so this part is where the wave would be the actual break. Again, I probably could go a little darker. So now I'm going to build up a little bit and go darker. I know you're probably thinking if you grew up, I grew up in the South here in Alabama, down in Mobile, and we would go to Gulf Shores a lot. And there was always, the water was pretty, but if I went down into the Florida Panhandle, there was this green called the Emerald Coast, and there's just these sandbars. It's actually 2 sandbars, and it's got that greenish color in it, kind of a blue-green. So I picked up some lemon yellow and just kind of mixing in here a little bit with it. Now I need to go darker, so again, I'm just going pretty much Payne's gray with a little bit of the ultramarine, and I want to go a little bit darker. Now some of this is dried, some still pretty wet though. Now that's going to set that further back. It's going to try to set that line a little bit, that horizon line just a little bit further back there. Again, it's still a little bit wet. And then I'll show you another technique to come back and we'll get this even darker when that wave's breaking. And that may be another one there. All right, let's let that dry a minute and sit there. And in fact, I think I'll go ahead and hit it with a dryer. I've got it going here. That way, now you can see how this is lightened up some, and it's not as dark as it was. And so that really worked out kind of quite nice there. Still, it establishes me the form of the perspective of the dunes. Now again, you can see this needs to go darker and a little bit smoother here. So I've dried that. I'm mixing up my Payne's gray and a little bit of the ultramarine. My brush is kind of dry, but it's still got some moisture in it. And I'm just kind of, you can see I'm using the edge of the brush, and I'm just trying to build up. And as I'm building up and making that darker in the background, I'm also trying to, attempting anyway, to smooth out that horizon. That won't be exactly a straight line. As I mentioned, you could tape off the sky once the sky is completely dry. But I think for this demo, we're not going to do it. And again, I didn't mention this, but try to keep these lines horizontal if you can. And there's that wave break. Try to keep those lines horizontal. And again, they get a little bit smaller here. Again, I'm just tapping this a little bit, you know, where it's kind of rough shore there. I'll come back in a little bit with a finer brush. Now, what I've got to do here is to keep this right. Is now I got to think about, okay, where do I want these sea oats? And I really can't put those sea oats until this really dries a little bit more here. So it's pretty dry down in here. And so now we're going to be thinking about, you know, where's this grass? What does this grass look like? These sea oats. Now, they do have a part of a clump of grass, and then the oats come out of that. So take and, you know, mix you up a green. You know, I've kind of had some going here already previously, and that's really green there. Dip a little bit of water, and that's got that. Again, I've got some green paint, but I've also got a little bit of, as you can see, a little dab of raw sienna there. And then I can grab some, you know, even Payne's gray and yellow will do that. So I'm going to put just some kind of clumps of grass here. I can build this up. I'm going to show you a technique. So along this edge here is going to be some of this grassy area here, and there'll even be some here on this bank here. Again, and they'll come down a little bit. You might even have some right through here. So I'm just establishing a little bit of a bank there, a clump, I guess you will. And so I'm darkening it now. I'm building a little bit of dark. Again, I haven't drawn the oats here yet, but there's a clump there, another clump here, and a clump there. Let's go a little bit darker. I'm going toward my Payne's gray, so you can see I'm getting really dark there, even building up, coming up, and then. So that's kind of the establishment. It's a little bit green, but that's okay for the moment. Now, why it's still kind of wet, I'm going to take a fine liner or a rigger brush, and I'm going to dip in, and I'm going to go pretty much Payne's gray with a little bit of raw sienna, and just creating some of these tall sea oat stems. You know, don't really know where I'm going to go with them, and they're, you know, they could be wind blown, and again, I'm just creating some of these. Now I know what's happening here, and my tape's coming off here. So what's happening on these sea oats is, you know, you can look at it, open up and maybe Google a sea oat, what it looks like, and they're brown, you know. So I mean, but they're not all. I mean, sometimes it may be in the shade. So I'm going back with just my raw sienna here, and then, you know, and that's a little more brown, and then just kind of creating, and they kind of dig in. Sometimes they have a little bit of a little stem like that. You know, they came off, and, you know, not spending a lot of time trying to paint, just letting the brush do the work. So I'm kind of scribbling it. Now it's important to me. It's important that you create a little bit of a variance of these things, because these things could be broken, they could be wind blown. You know, that different things, different techniques of these guys, and to get this, a brush needs to be, the paint needs to be fairly liquid so I can move that brush, you know, because you can get a dry brush technique, which is okay. And we'll put a few more here and then build those guys up. Now, while that's still wet, I'm going to show you another little quick technique here. I'm taking a credit card, actually it's a hotel card, and that I use, and I'm just going to kind of scrape it into this. Now, I can come back and I'm scraping up into where there might be some of these lines here. So I can always go back and re-wet this, you know. I can blend that up if I don't like how it looks. Same thing here. We'll go ahead and do it on this side while it's It's already starting to dry here a little bit too quick. But that'll give us a little bit of a different feel to get us some of those highlight things going in there. Now, again, we haven't really fooled with our dunes a whole lot yet. We're still working on sea oats. Let's put some sea oats over here. Again, let's have these maybe kind of going in a similar direction. You know, they kind of, it's like these are blowing that way, so maybe these go up. It might be kind of nice to go up into that cloud right there and put one, because that's kind of a, you know, it'll really pop out. You know, again and again, a couple of them here. You can see I'm just really kind of just squiggling my brush, and that little bit dark there, a little bit too blue, but we'll let that one go. And putting up some more here. And so I want to go above the horizon. You know, that one got a little bit maybe blowing the wrong way, but that's okay. You know, and some more here. Again, going with my Payne's Gray. Maybe a little bit of my burnt umber. Getting some darker values. Now, a lot of people use lamp black. I do use it, but I pretty much am a Payne's Gray guy. A lot of people, you know, get tired of Payne's Gray, but I like the feel that it gets me. I like the color. I know it leans toward the blue a little bit. Again, these now here these, I'm making these a little bit smaller, and I'm just dragging these things up through here. You know, don't really know. When we get a little bit darker down through here. You know, these are just coming up through those waves and coming up. May change the color. You know, that paint's real heavy there, so we got to do something with that. Maybe go a little bit taller. Again, nothing's, you know, this is kind of a little bit of impression. As you can see, I need to get darker over in here, so I just took some Payne's Gray and drug in there. Maybe a little bit of umber, you know, because it was kind of clumpy. Same thing here. And you can sometimes you can actually draw paint through here. Like I've got some squigglies, or maybe, you know, this grass kind of grows at a funny angle here. It doesn't always grow at, you know, perfectly on that thing. Maybe some of these are falling off. So that's a kind of a fast technique of doing some of these sea oats. And again, I mean, I can dip I can dip this into that, and I got a little bit of dry brush technique going on there. You know, I'm kind of liking a little bit how this looks here. You know, it's a little bit maybe too green, but I'm going to lighten that up a little bit. It'll dry lighter, as I remember telling you guys. So here's our path. You remember we got our path coming down through here, and we got to keep that path going. Some shadows that's coming off of here. You know, nothing fancy here. Maybe a little bit darker. As I'm going down through here, just a little bit darker down through here. You know, then there's that path. I mean, I could try to put some footprints down through there. You know, need to get a little bit darker down through this area here. And even here, I really didn't get. You know, it's going to drop a little bit different there. So I'm just kind of making up where there might be some shadows and stuff going on here. And this a little bit darker. I feel like I need to go a little bit darker right through here. And in closing, as we kind of wrap this up, I mean, you could spend a little more time, but I wanted to show you really how quick this could be. So now I'm going to go back to my waves, where my waves were. And I need to get a little bit darker right underneath the crest where that wave is breaking. You know, so I've got a little bit darker blue, and with some Payne's Gray going on. That's that Prussian blue. You know, trying to create. And I have to be careful, because I should do this really before I do the sea oats, because I don't want to do that. And there's that crest wave back there that's breaking. You know, it's breaking in the background, kind of there. So again, I got maybe a little bit darker down through here. Again, we're not trying to paint it this perfectly. This is kind of almost an impression style painting. yeah, I think we could kind of leave it at that. You know, let me take this back down. The sky really has kind of turned out quick. You know, I could do more color in there and get some more scrapes. Some people scrape with their fingernails, as I'm doing here. You know, taking my pinky and scraping up down through there. You know, if I got some, you know, so where it's not, you know, that part needs probably be a little bit, so I'll scrape off some of that. Using my thumbnail there. Again, and you know what? I think we're going to call that it. So there you have it. You know, you got a little funny C-up going on there. I could probably try to fix that. It's like it's broken off, or it doesn't connect to anything, which that's kind of strange. So let's build that up and connect that down into here a little bit. You know, it's how to create that. And